So factors like good manager can be quite subjective. Well, Rex, I don't think that's the same thing. I don't know, because you're talking about a manager who is basically showing some favoritism to others or interacts with different people, right, in different ways. But Chadi is saying more like what he thinks is a good manager. It may not be what Patrick thinks is a good manager, which is completely different than what I think is a good manager, right? So I think that it's a slight difference. But what you're saying, Rex, does happen too, right? Where managers can have favorites, or the way they give out projects is not fair, or different things like that, right? So I think it's a slight difference there. Patrick says, agreed. I never really felt empowered or recognized for my work. Okay, yeah, that can be very very draining. I believe a good manager is one that challenges you to be better each day, also one that helps you develop your career. Yep. I'm on board with that. Tim says, order, respect, clear communication. Yep. I'm on board with that, Tim. Fairness. Yep. Tim, what you're reminding me of? I read this book when I went back into management, particularly data science management. I read a book by a lady, or books. She has multiple ones. I read 2 of hers, by a lady named Amy Jen Su. Last name is S.U. You can look her up. She's Harvard trained. She writes for the Harvard Business Review. That's how I first found her. And what you're reminding me of is tone. The tone starts from the top, right? That's one of her big things. That how you act as a manager is how your staff will act, right? They will feed off your energy. And Tim, correct me if I'm wrong here, but to me, that's what it feels like you're describing, right? Because when they give you that order, respect, and like a clear direction, then that helps you also have that same clear direction and that same order and all that, right? Like it kind of feeds down into the team, right? And I think that's super important. So let me know if I was right on that, Tim, because I think you're hitting on some really important points there. Patrick says, I love that you emphasize the mentorship role. Yeah. Patrick, I think that's important early on in your career. But I gotta say that for somebody like me, like later on in my career, I need the mentorship less. So maybe you'll find that later in your career too, that you kind of grow out of wanting that mentorship, right? And also, I always bring up the book.